Hello YouTube, my name's Al, I'm autistic and I have grievances. Today I want to talk about autistic masking because there's a lot of confusion about what masking really is. And following on from my previous video about autistic communities and communicators or whatever the hell you want to call them, it's not the fault of, it's not that. Most people I've watched, the autistic people who make content about their autism, do a great job of explaining what masking actually is. The problem is other people not really understanding it. It's one of those things, they say, well, you know, everyone does that. I'm like, yes, everyone does do that. Masking is, it's like acting. It's like pretending to be something you're not, which everyone does at times. We all do it pretty much all the time. We all present a different version or a different aspect of ourselves based on who we're around. I don't tend to make as many offensive jokes around people I don't know, because they're not going to understand that it is a joke and it's just a dark sense of humor, for example. I'm not going to go around calling random people you fucking dickhead like I would with a friend, because they know that I don't mean anything by it. So yes, we do all do that. So why is it different with autistic people? That's the bit that people don't understand, how it's different for us. And I think the problem with that is a lot of autistic content is very curated. It's streamlined. It's trying to present things in a very factual way, because for an autistic person, that makes a lot of sense. It's a very common thing with neuro-divergent people in general. It tends to be about facts, about data. Let's keep it simple. Let's keep it to the point. Let's have it all be very logical and make sense. And that doesn't work. It does not work. People don't listen to what you say. They listen to what they think you mean. The way the human mind works is it takes the key points of communication, the key details, and it creates the story around them. An example I like to give is, I think it was Steven Pinker who was saying this, talking about how, I don't remember exactly, but essentially he was explaining this. I think it was Steven Pinker. It's like, let's say the example that they gave is something along the lines of, did you see Mary? She was at the hotel and Dave's red car was parked out front, and that's all it means. So that she was there, Dave's car was there. But when remembering the story, what the brain does is, like Mary, or whatever the hell I called her, hotel, Dave, and it puts those three things together, and it's like Mary's having an affair with Dave they were seen at the hotel together. And that's not what happened. It's two different things. She was there, and Dave's car was there. But people don't do the nuance. A lot of people say they want nuance, but they don't. Not really. Because it's easier. This comes from, well, there's something I say to my wife sometimes, is that, you know, how human beings, as I say it, we're 5 minutes out of the caves, if that. Human societies have existed for tens of thousands of years. The oldest settlement that we've confirmed, this has changed, but when I first heard about it, it was a place called Göbekli Tepe, which is in Turkey, I think, or Iran, somewhere in the Middle East. Anyway, they found this structure, and it's approximately 23,000 years old, although it now seems to be saying 13,000 years old. Either way, it's very, very old. And that's just the earliest dated one we've found. And, you know, human beings didn't just create cities overnight. It's not like just one day, it's like caves, cities. This happened over a period, you know. So there are a lot of other domiciles, buildings that we haven't found yet, and some of them never will be found because maybe they were made out of mud, or they were made out of tree bark, or they were made out of I think it's in Africa, there are people who still make their homes out of bamboo. I saw a thing about it. It's like they'll cut them in half and then they'll slice them again down the middle, and they sort of lay it out like a carpet. That thing's not going to survive for tens of thousands of years. We're not going to find them. So the likelihood is that people, human beings, have been building places to live for 20, 30, 40, 50, 100,000 years even. Maybe back when the Denisovans, the Neanderthals, and any other human species were still around. And so we haven't lived like this for very long at all. The brain has not developed yet to a point where it's gotten used to this kind of environment. We're still looking for threats. We're still living as a species as though we're living in caves, wondering what that sound is at night. It's like, is it that bush over there, when that's rustling? It's probably just the wind. Or maybe it's a tiger that's going to jump out and eat my face. And it's better to assume it's the tiger and run away and then worry about it afterwards than go and investigate and then get eaten by a tiger. That's the way the human brain still works, even now. This is why we have people like they call it type A personality, where they're always concerned about it. This is why we get people at traffic lights, instead of slowing down and coming to a stop when the light turns amber. Because, fun fact, in the UK, the yellow light means stop, not the red light. The red light means don't go. The yellow light, the amber light, that's the one that means stop. But people see that and they're like, I need to get through, because they get that, they still have that anxiety about things could go wrong. But because we don't have, for the most part, at least not in the developed world, we don't have those kinds of dangers anymore. There's no outlet for that. This is why horror films are so popular, because they let you go and experience terrible things in a safe environment. It gives you that relief. It lets the glucocorticoids, the cortisol, it lets the cortisol out in a safe way. It lets it out, more importantly. It doesn't matter that it's safe, it lets it get out. It lets that anxiety be worked through. So this is why the human brain still, it doesn't think logically. It tries to. Many people do. And this is why I've said, and I'll probably come back to this at some other point, there's this idea that autism is the next stage of human evolution. Evolution doesn't have stages. Evolution just happens. Things just change over time. It just does. However, it's pretty clear to me, and I don't have the research to back this up, but it's pretty clear to me that autism is evolution in action. It's the brain trying to move away from these more base instincts to a more logical way of doing things, to more rational, more simplified, straightforward, not beating around the bush way of doing things. It just hasn't gotten there yet. That's why we get this argument between different parts of the brain, because subject that I'm quite interested in is evolution and development of things like that and the brain. But we have this idea that it's like there are different stages of the brain that built at different times, and it's kind of true, but it's not that straightforward. But for the sake of simplicity, we'll say, well, have like the back of the brain stem, that's the bit that controls the body. Then you have like the whichever lobes it is, I can't remember exactly which it is, but you have the prefrontal cortex at the front here. That's your logical part, and then there's like the parietal lobe and the occipital lobe, and I don't know what all of them do. I'm interested in it, but I'm not an expert on these matters. But basically, we have the bit at the back, and as it gets further to the front, it goes more from like basic motor control to instincts to fear and logic. So, but they're all still there. So they're all still sort of at odds with each other, trying to find a balance. And that's what I think is going on with autism. Because it's one of them in particular, not the perineum, that's in the anus, isn't it? Not the parietal lobe. There's a specific part of the brain, the amygdala. The fear response. The amygdala is getting smaller. The brain as a whole, supposedly, is actually getting smaller with each generation, although it doesn't seem to be affecting intelligence. If anything, it's going up, which makes some think that it's probably the connections between them are coming closer together, so it's able to move faster. Anyway, I'm getting way sidetracked. But anyway, the amygdala in particular, that's the fear part. That's decreasing in size with each generation, and that's the bit that makes you act irrationally, because fear is irrational. It's a very effective way of surviving. It's better to run away from the bush and not get eaten by a tiger than go and inspect it. You know, it's better to run away from a bush when it isn't a tiger than go and inspect it when it is. So it definitely has utility, but fear makes you act irrationally. You don't think things through. You focus right there and then on survival. There's a guy called Robert Sapolsky, who is a biologist, I think. He's a professor. He talked about, he's very interested in baboons, but anyway, he was talking about, I think it was deer. If they get the stomach ripped open by a predator, the adrenaline kicks in and they run like crazy, and that can do massive damage and lead to them dying. But at that moment, it's better to run away from the thing that's just ripped open your guts and is trying to eat you, because you have more chance of surviving if you get away from that than you do if you stay there and get eaten. Shockingly enough, having your face eaten by a tiger tends not to be very good for survival. But it is an irrational thing to do, because if you think about it logically, you find somewhere safe and you go and heal yourself up. But at the time, you need to just run away, and it's better to not think rationally, because that time you spend weighing up the pros and cons could lead to you having your face eaten. How all this relates to masking and the whole thing that people, like I said, we're finding shortcuts. That's the point I'm getting at, is we're trying to find shortcuts to understand things rather than weighing everything up. And I don't like to do this, and I'm really sick of hearing it, but you know the film Idiocracy? People talk about how it's a documentary. It's not. The world is not anywhere close to Idiocracy, but there is one thing it really hit the nail on the head. If you don't know the film, or if you do, whichever, doesn't really matter. There's a scene anyway where they're talking about getting plants to grow, because they use this energy drink called Brawndo. It has the electrolytes. It has what plants crave, and the plants are dying because they're not getting water. And the main character says you need to give plants water. And there's a kid there who says, well, yeah, I've never seen plants growing out of a toilet. There's water there. But that's what people do. That's a slightly more exaggerated version. There are absolutely people who are that simplistic with their thinking, but that's the way people are. They want it nice and simple. They want things to be very straightforward. And a lot of them are. A lot of things are, but some things aren't. And this thing with masking is it's not very simple. The idea of it is quite straightforward. It's very understandable. You know, you're just not being 100% yourself, because it might cause problems. People might not like it. It might create friction. You might start arguments. Whatever it is. So yes, everyone does do that. But the reason it's different for autistic people, and this is the point I was trying to get to in my own rambling way, is that we don't know how to turn it off, and we don't know how to do half measures, because a lot of human interaction is instinctual, and we don't have those same instinctual aspects because there's too much of this here reasoning things out, whereas most neurotypical people, they go on the way they feel. Human beings are extremely emotional animals. We think with our emotions first. Less so with autistic people, because the emotions come through, but then this sort of stops it along the way, whereas most people, they don't. And that's not to throw shade at them. This is something I need to understand. And I know somebody's going to get it wrong, because people always fucking do, and that's another issue we'll come back to at another point. But people are emotional. Human beings are emotional creatures. They feel things. How many times have you experienced somebody saying, I feel such and such a thing? Interactions online, I've had it many times when I've tried to make a statement that's very logical, very rational, stripped away of all the emotional baggage and just trying to understand things, and it'll be like, I feel Your comment is dishonest. You can feel my nutsack for all I care. You do not decide what I mean. I decide what I fucking mean. If you tell me I'm wrong about what I mean, you can go fuck yourself. And this is the problem we have with trying to explain masking to neurotypical people, is because we're trying to do it logically, we're trying to do it rationally, we're trying to make everything very simple and make sense, and it doesn't, because people don't get the emotional part of it. And it's the emotional part that's the problem with masking, is we're pushing everything down, we're swallowing all and trying to be what everyone else thinks we're supposed to be, what everyone else tells us to be, and then we do it wrong anyway. It's just, there's just something about you that I don't feel right, because it just different when they do it. Why is it different? See, this is where I'd be going. That's the way I think. So why is it different? Explain it to me. Well, it just is. You just know. You should just know. Well, I don't know. That's why I'm doing things the way I'm doing. Well, you must know, but I fucking don't. I don't fucking know. And that's why I want to talk about this, because I'm not going to streamline it. I'm not going to make it all logical and rational. I mean, I will, because that's the way I am, but I need to get the way this feels across to people, because people resonate more with feeling, with emotion, and I'm struggling to form this into words because I'm letting myself be me. I'm letting myself express the way I feel rather than explain the way I feel. Let me try and do the rational part first and explain what masking actually is and how it's different from just, it's not just about altering an aspect of yourself. Everyone does do that. Masking is completely different. It's like being an actor. But it's not like just being any old actor. It's like being is it method acting? Character acting? Whichever one it is, where they become the person. They don't turn it off. You know, they get a lot of flack for it, because if they're playing like Christian Bale in American Psycho, if they're playing like a violent sociopath, they act like that. They become that character for the time that they're making that film, and they don't turn it off when they go home, and they still have the same attitudes, they still have the same cadence, they still have the same way about them. That's masking. It's not like the kind of acting where it's like you turn the camera on, you do your role, and then when it stops, you go and you have a joke and you have a laugh, or you go and just chill out for a little bit. You can't turn it off. You can't stop. Even after we come home. I used to think that I was often very authentic with who I am, but at this point I've had to realize I don't know who I am. I really don't. I've spent so long trying to not create waves, trying to just get by and be left alone, that I don't know how to turn it off anymore. I can't just let the mask slip. It comes off on its own sometimes when the pressure gets too much, when it all builds up inside, and most of the time when that happens, I am alone, and it all comes out at once. That's a meltdown, or a shutdown, if you like. That's something it's related, but it's something I'll talk about some other time. The reason masking is so difficult is because we can't stop it. I don't know how else to explain it other than that. Masking isn't about just trying to fit in. It's about trying to exist. It's trying to exist in a world where you don't fit. It's like, imagine you live in Swaziland, wherever. The only language you speak is French. I don't know if they speak French in Swaziland. I think they actually do. But anyway, you only speak French, and you know a couple of words. And you're trying to get by and communicate with those people in their language and not let them know that you only speak French. But you can't. You know, you might know little bits and pieces. So maybe you pretend that you have a speech impediment, or I don't fucking know. I don't know where I'm going with this analogy, but it's like that. It's like being somewhere else. And so the difference is, a lot of autistic people have said this. If I went and lived in Japan, for example, outside of the fact that I'm a white guy and I'm a gaijin or whatever it is, and I'm a weird foreigner, that at least they wouldn't expect me to live like a typical Japanese person, because they'll know I'm foreign. They'll know I'm not native. They'll give me some leeway to think that I don't understand the right way of doing things. But when I'm here in the UK with a British accent in the north of England, where I live, people are like, you should just be like this. And why? I'm not hurting anyone. It's not like I'm going out on the street and I'm grabbing these and I'm trying to shove them down people's throats or anything. I'm not setting fire to people. I'm not like killing their dogs and eating them. I'm just not doing normal things. And even when I do normal things, there's something weird about the way I do it. Like in high school, primary school, I had my hair shaved. I had my head, completely shaved, because that's what everyone else was doing. But I looked weird when I did it. When I was wearing the same clothes as everybody else, I looked weird. I was trying too hard, trying to fit in. And why is it different? Why is it different when I do it? How do they know that I don't fit in like that? How? Seriously, how? I don't get it. I just don't fit in. And instead of people being like, well, he's just a bit different, it's like, no, you're a weirdo. You're a freak. There's something wrong with you. How can you not understand? It's because nobody's ever explained it to me. How am I supposed to know these things? Well, you should just know. Well, I don't. And they don't seem to be able to understand that. They don't get it. They just can't wrap their head around the fact that I might have a different way of doing things than they do. I might have a different idea about the way things are done. If I try and explain it instead of listening, it's where the whole nuance thing comes in. It's like, no, that's wrong. That's not the way it's done here. Why? You can't give me a fucking answer, can you? I have a lot of respect for the people who can. I have even more respect for the very few people who will tell me how it's supposed to be done, give me the logical reasoning behind it, give me the explanation for it, and then listen to me when I present a different way. They're very few. Fewer still are the ones who will be like, okay, that's fine, you do it that way, but we do it this way. That almost never happens. Especially not in workplaces, but that's a whole different issue. Masking is hard. It's really fucking hard. It's really fucking draining. And there's a video my wife told me about where there was a woman talking about how they just had a baby and were playing with the child, and it's like, should I smile at the baby because smiles like that, and because babies like smiling? It's like, well, that's like putting on a mask. No, it fucking isn't. No, that's what normal people do. Normal people, they'll smile because the kid likes it. That's not changing the fundamental thing about who you are. And that's what I mean. People don't really understand the difference. Even neurodivergent people don't really get it. Not in a rational sense, because it's not a rational thing. It's a survival mechanism. I've heard that said by other autistic people online, and that's one I think is a really good way of putting it. But we don't go far enough with that, because again, there's still too much of this where we're trying to curate it and keep it and present it in a way that people can understand. But we're still missing the fact as autistic people that most people don't respond to data. They don't respond to fact. They don't respond to the logical reasoning. They respond to emotion. They feel things. Human beings feel the way they live. Autistic people do too. We just try and work through that, and most people don't. And I'm not going to say that's right or wrong. It's just different. But the best way I can explain masking to somebody in a way I think that will be understood for the majority outside of a textbook is, you can think that you logically understand something, but that's not. That's on paper. It's like we get so many kids coming out of college and university with all the academic knowledge, but no understanding of how to actually apply it, because that comes through experience. And that's not because there's anything wrong with them. It's just because, they haven't done it. You can read all the books on how to do, how to remove a hernia, for example, how to do surgery. But until you've actually done it, I'm pretty sure, I have this funny idea that until you've actually done the surgery, you're not going to know how to do it. That's why when you become a surgeon, you don't just immediately go into the operating room and start slicing people up. You assist. You watch somebody else who has the experience do it, and then you might do a little bit. You'll do a little bit more. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a fucking doctor. You need to. It's so fucking exhausting. Constantly second guessing yourself, wondering, was my tone of voice right? Were the words I used right? Did I pronounce them a little bit differently? That's what masking is. It's constantly being aware of these things, the simplest little things. Did I move my eyebrow correctly? Did I stand in the right position? Did I stand up straight, or should I hunch forward, or should I step back? Should I step forward? Should I move my hands? Should I shove them up my fucking ass and tell people to have a sniff? I don't know. And I'm trying to do all these things because you can't make the fucking effort to just accept that it just does things a little bit differently. It has to be. It's like, you're there thinking, why is he doing this? What's wrong with him? Why can't he just do it? Because I fucking can't. My fucking brain doesn't work that way. That's not how I think. And it never will be. Even if you logically explain it to me, I might fucking disagree. Is that so hard to understand? That nothing is ever 100% accurate. Nothing is ever exactly this. It's not like, this is how it is. No, that's how you see it. That's how you are. That's how you think you are. I've seen so many people who sincerely believe that they're being really friendly and affable and polite, and they're not. I just want to stab them in the fucking face. Because they're so fucking obnoxious, and they can't see what they've done wrong. But I'm the fucking problem, because every fucker else agrees with them, because I'm not normal. They are. I'm going to all this fucking effort trying to fit in. Not even trying to fucking fit in, just trying to get by. I used to do tabletop role playing. Dungeons and Dragons, this kind of stuff where you pretend to be a character. Freeform acting. I used to do that, and there was, in the group I was at, there was one guy there. It's like, I was sat like 3 or 4 tables away from him, just talking to somebody, and he just leaned over and went, shh. Why? It's got fuck all to do with you. I'm talking to my friend. But no, but I'm same guy. So I tried to talk to him. I thought, a conversation. It's like, no, I was told that I was butting in, and I wasn't invited to the they fucking called me over. So I make an effort to not get involved, and then I was being rude because I wasn't engaging with them. I can't fucking win. It doesn't matter what I do, it's wrong. And it's not because of the way I act. That's the thing. That's what you don't seem to understand. It's not because of the way I act. You just know. There's just something about me. Maybe it's the shape of my face. Maybe the symptoms are right. Maybe it is the way we smell. And you might not notice it. You don't notice it consciously. But maybe there is something in the scent of an autistic person that just makes neurotypical people think weird. But I don't think it's even that. Because the same thing happens to me when I fucking type online. There's just something about everything about me that clues people in that I'm just a little bit different. So I can never be taken at face value. They're always looking for something under the surface. It doesn't matter how clear I am. If I'm really worn out and I just need a little bit of time to myself, so I'll go and sit somewhere quietly. Somebody always has to come in, are you okay? It's like, no, not really. What's wrong? It's like, I just need a bit of time to myself. No, come on, what's wrong with you? I need you to go away. I need you to fuck off and kill yourself so I can have a few minutes peace. That's why I wanted to talk about this, because there aren't enough people who just show just how fucking exhausting it is. It's just burning up inside at all times. This is why we have meltdowns, because this is here all the time. This never goes away. Even when I'm happy, it's still there. It never goes away. It's always there in the background. There's always something. I'm always remembering, I'm always aware of the fact that I don't fit in with everyone else. I don't fit in with other autistic people either. People keep saying that, you get autistic people together and everything's fine. No, it fucking isn't. Which we're all masking, even when we're together. That's why we get on better. It's because we're not telling everybody else they're wrong, because we're aware of the fact that they're having a mask, but we're humans. We don't fit in anywhere. We have an easier time with other autistic people because we have some commonalities. There are parts of our lives that we can relate to, but it's like the kids in school that get bullied and nobody wants to be their friends, so they sort of pal about together because misery loves company. They're not friends. They're just clumped together because they don't have anyone else, and human beings have this need for human connection, so they put up with that. Some genuine friendships do come out of it. That's fair enough, but school in general, workplaces, it happens sometimes. I still have one friend from high school that I'm still in touch with, but I don't give a shit about the rest of them. Why would I? I didn't choose to be there. I was around a bunch of people that I didn't care about. I still am now. Why would I give a shit? They don't care about me. They might say they do, but I've had instances where I've tried to arrange, let's go and do something, and I've come up with this idea and it's great, sorted it all out, and everybody's like, nah, I can't be asked, and then they've gone and done it anyway without me. I've mentioned that before. Everyone does that. Masking. Everyone does it. No. No, you don't. No, you fucking don't. Autistic people do. Neuro-divergent people do. Some people do. Borderline personality disorder people, for example. Because for those who don't understand, borderline personality means you don't actually have a personality. You just sort of go with the flow. They mask. They put on a mask of having a personality. I don't understand how somebody couldn't have a personality, but that's basically what that is. So they do, yeah. But again, they're not neurotypical, are they? Narcissists do it as well, but again, not neurotypical, are they? Schizophrenics, whatever. But your average, everyday Joe Bloggs is just a normal person. No, you don't. You really fucking don't. Masking isn't about just presenting an aspect of yourself that you think will fit in best. It's about being aware of every single thing you do. Everything. The way you breathe, the way you blink, the way you talk, the way you move. Maybe not consciously, not all of the time, but most of the time it is a conscious thought. And it takes up so much energy that by the time you get there, you're stumbling over something because you've had to think about too many different things. It's like trying to keep track of everything all at once. It's like the sensory thing. People really can't get that either. Oh, but that one's easier to explain because you can just be like, well, imagine you're at a really loud place and the noise is constant and it doesn't stop. Now just imagine it's always like that, and it's not just sound, it's the sense of smell, and it's the light, and it's the way you feel everything, like physically, the wind and shit. But masking is different because that's all in here. And human beings do not understand the brain. I don't mean that, nobody does. This is why we have the field of neuroscience. This is why we're still trying to figure it out. We don't know how the brain works. We have an idea of how certain things work and what certain things do, but we don't understand. Problem is, most people do think they know how they think. They understand exactly how they're thinking and feeling. No, you fucking don't. Your brain is tricking itself into thinking it knows what it's doing, and it doesn't, because most of it's automatic. Movements like this, you don't consciously think, I'm going to send this signal down here to make this move, to make this move, to make this move, to do this. It's not how it's done, bro. It's just not how it's done. Human beings do not understand how the brain works, and I'm not claiming to be an expert either, because that's what something likes to say. I always say, like I said, I do other videos where I talk about intellectual integrity and how it's very important to me, and I see very little of it. And there's always going to be somebody who'll be like, "Oh, except you, right? You're exempt." No, of course I'm fucking not. I try to be intellectually honest at all times, but I don't succeed. I'm a fucking human being. Of course I don't. I'm not exempt. No one is. That's my whole point. None of us are. Some of us try harder. Some of us achieve those results better. Some of us understand more about how the brain works than others do. And most people understand their own brain better than everybody else. Most people. But then there are people who don't. Schizophrenics don't understand how their brain is working as well as a psychiatrist, for example, because they're schizophrenic. Their brain is working wrong. It's misfiring all over the place. It's sending confusing signals to itself, never mind every other part of it. Is it really so hard to accept that everybody is like that? No, I don't mean everybody's schizophrenic, by the way. I mean that everybody's brain is doing its own thing, and we're just seeing the end result, and then we're making up this story in our heads to say, yeah, I understand how that happened. We don't. We have an idea. So no, masking isn't just putting on a face. It's everything. It is everything we are. Everything. Because even when we're alone, okay, maybe not when we're alone, when I'm alone, I can only really speak for myself. Remember what I said about intellectual honesty? I can only really speak for myself, but I'm fairly confident that this is something that most autistic people will agree with if they've really gotten to grips with it, because a lot of, just like every other human being, a lot of autistic people trick themselves into thinking, I'm actually doing great here, and let's be honest, we're not. If we were, would we have the highest suicide rates of any demographic by a fucking country mile? No, I don't think we would. Would we have such a low life expectancy, even when we're extremely physically fit and healthy? I think the life expectancy, the average lifespan of an autistic person in the UK is like 57. That's middle-aged. 57. Let's say it's 60. That's just starting to turn into old age. If I die at 57, that's 12 and a half years from now. 13 at the outside, if it's like right at the end. That's nothing. My oldest kid's 20 next month. It's less than that's only a little less than she lived. It's nothing. If that really is the average lifespan, then I'm not middle-aged. I'm already an old man. I'm 44. If 57 is life expectancy, then my middle age was in my late fucking 20s into my early 30s. Maybe I'll talk about that in more detail at some point. Actually do the research to get the actual figures. I don't know. If there's one thing I want people to take away from this, is that masking is killing us. Literally. It's not hyperbole. It is actually killing us. The amount of stress and anxiety is shortening lifespans, and it's not just because of suicide. the more stressed somebody is, the shorter they live, because we have these things on the end of our, I think it's our chromosomes called telomeres, and they get frayed throughout your life, and as they whittle away, eventually they hit a point where they just don't exist anymore, and then you die. And stress makes them deteriorate faster. Joy actually helps repair them to an extent. This is why people who have very supporting, loving families tend to live longer, because they get more happiness, they get more hugs, they get the happy chemicals that help repair the telomeres. But there's only so much you can do. It's, I don't know what a good example of this would be, whatever, fuck it. Anyway, stress kills people. Stress and anxiety literally makes you die sooner, makes you more unhealthy, it makes you more prone to illness, it makes you more prone to disease. And that's what masking is. It's constant stress and anxiety. It's a constant feeling of just something is wrong and it can never be fixed. There's nothing you can do to make it better. It's there at all times. Never goes away. This is what I was trying to get at earlier before I got distracted. Even when we're alone, because I think I can speak for the majority of autistic people here. I'm only speaking from my own experience, but I can tell you, even when I'm alone, like completely alone, when there's no one else around and there's nothing else happening, I can't just drop the mask and be myself. I'm preparing myself for when I go back out, and that's even more tiring, because I should be relaxing, but I can't. It's like when I go to bed at night, I can be quite relaxed, I can be exhausted, I can be on the verge of falling asleep, then I go and lay down in bed, I get myself comfortable, and then all kicks off. And I'm thinking, I'm going to have to be up tomorrow, I'm going to have to go to work tomorrow, I'm going to have to do this tomorrow, I'm going to have to talk to those people, I'm going on holiday in 3 weeks. I'm not going on holiday in 3 weeks. So those are the sorts of things. And then it's just like, everything goes, and I'm no longer relaxed, I'm wired, I'm so much anxiety. This is why this has taken so long, actually, because I wanted to do this a few weeks ago, because my brother got married, and I went to his wedding, and there were a lot of people there, and I'd been dreading it for weeks. I think I might have even mentioned it in my previous video. And then after that, I spent a couple of days there on my own, which was quite nice, but it wasn't long enough. And then I came back, I had a week off work. I had 2 weeks off work in total, but I had a week off work at home, and then we went on holiday with my wife and my young child, and it was a great experience for her. I got a wristband that let us skip the lines at Peppa Pig World, which was great, which helped a lot because it let us go through and not have to be around people for as long. But it was still, there were so many people there, there's all the travelling. It's taken me this long to get to the point where I felt ready to do this. I've tried so many times to sit here and talk about this. I wanted to do it beforehand, but I just couldn't bring myself to do it because it's always there, and I'm still coming down off all that. I remember when I was there, I was the night I got there for the wedding, I was walking up to go and have some drinks with family, and my mother came up behind us and with her boyfriend in the car, and they picked me up, and she said something about how she was proud of me, because, and I was like, oh, it was only 2 miles because I walked to the place, and it turns out it was like another 1.5 miles inside this massive park. Anyway, she said she was really proud of me. I was like, it's only a couple of miles. Like, no, for being here, and it was just like, oh yeah, great, proud of me for something that I'm going to have nightmares about for decades. I'm not going to forget it. It was a nice affair. It was nice seeing my family again. It's my kid brother. I've always been very fond of him. Probably the closest. I barely see him anymore, so it was nice. But the anxiety of being there, I'm going to be thinking about this for decades. I still remember things from when I was in fucking nursery to this day. Little memories of that just, did I do that right? Oh God, I felt so stupid for doing that. I can't let them go. Any of them. And it's like then there's another event that happens afterwards, and it makes me feel the same way. And what happens here? What happens with that? I think this is common with autistic people. I don't know, but what happens with me is every event that makes me feel that way. Next time I remember it, I'll remember one of them. Maybe one of them will pop into my head, and then all of them happen at once. And I don't just remember this event. I live that event in an instant. The whole experience all hits me all at once. But like I said, they all clump together, so I get all of them. And then the next time I remember it after that, not only do I remember the event, but I remember each time it's happened to me, and it all happens at once. All of those feelings, all of those frustrations, all of that not fitting in hits me. And that's what happens when I try and go to sleep. Something like that will happen every fucking time. Because the problem I've had now is that because it's happened so many times, I start to dread going to the bed because I associate that with those feelings. I associate going to sleep with knowing that that's going to happen. That's masking. That's what masking is. It's having to deal with shit like that constantly. Because it never, ever stops. It is always there. You push it down for a bit. You manage to muddle through and get done what you need to get done most of the time. But it's still there. It's still here in the back of the head. It's going to come out at some point. It's always going to come out. Always. Because it's always there. It's never gone away. It's already out. There are just things that have piled over the top of it, so I can ignore it for a little while. Or pretend I'm ignoring it for a little while. That's masking. That's what masking is. That's how masking feels. And that's a more important thing for people to understand. That's how it feels. I'm going to end with one little analogy that I think people should be able to understand. Something's going to happen soon. You know it's going to happen. It's a stressful event. I don't know. It doesn't matter what it is. It's like someone's going for an operation. You're going to get evicted, or you're moving house, or whatever it is. You're starting a new job. Whatever the fuck it is. Some new event's coming up. That's exciting, maybe, but it's also, you know, it's a change. It's uncomfortable. You need to get it done to see how it's going to go. Imagine that is your entire life. Always. That's how you feel every single moment of the day. Not every waking moment, no. You still feel it whilst you're asleep. Imagine being conscious of your life whilst you are sleeping. It's still there. You're still mulling it all over. It never fucking goes away. Ever. That's masking. That's how masking feels. To be stuck like that in perpetuity. I really struggle with that word. In perpetuity. Perpetuity. That's why I wanted to talk about masking, because that's something I haven't heard anybody else ever really say, even when they have gotten enthused, because very few people let themselves go like that, because it might push people away. It's also very vulnerable. People don't usually like to be vulnerable. I don't like to be vulnerable. But it's things that need to be said. People need to understand. This isn't hyperbole. You are killing us. Seriously. With everything you do. The way you've made us feel. You are killing us. We're dying young because we can't get a moment's rest. And you know what's even worse? It's not just you. We're killing ourselves. I don't mean suicide. We can't let it go ourselves. And it's killing us. So, isn't that a happy note to end on? I don't know what else to say. I don't think I've expressed everything I needed to do, but I hope that at the very least the honesty of the way it feels has come across. Hopefully I've done a little something to help people understand just how soul-crushing this is. If not, whatever. I can only do what I can do. Thank you for watching.